The events leading to the Battle of Hastings began with a succession crisis in early 1066. Our story unfolds across the tumultuous year of 1066, one of the most pivotal years in English history. On January 5th, 1066, King Edward the Confessor died without a direct heir, creating a succession crisis for the English throne. Three powerful men claimed the English throne. Harold Godwinson, Earl of Wessex, was crowned king on January 6th. William, Duke of Normandy, claimed that Edward had promised him the throne years before. And Harald Hardrada, King of Norway, based his claim on an earlier agreement with a previous king. In September 1066, England faced invasions from two directions. Harald Hardrada invaded from Norway, landing in the north of England. Meanwhile, William of Normandy prepared his forces across the English Channel to the south. On September 25th, Harold Godwinson confronted Harald Hardrada's forces at Stamford Bridge in northern England. Harold had force-marched his army 185 miles north in just 5 days, catching the Viking forces by surprise. The battle was decisive. Harald Hardrada was killed, and the Norwegian threat eliminated. After his victory at Stamford Bridge, Harold received news that William had landed in southern England. Harold was forced to march his battle-weary troops another 250 miles south to confront the Norman invasion. Having fought one major battle and completed 2 exhausting marches, Harold's army arrived at Hastings tired and under strength. The stage was now set for one of history's most pivotal battles. Harold Godwinson's exhausted Anglo-Saxon forces would face William's fresh Norman troops at Hastings on October 14, 1066, with the fate of England hanging in the balance. In 1066, William, Duke of Normandy, assembled a formidable invasion force to claim the English throne. William's preparations were extensive. He built approximately 700 ships in just 7 months. He gathered sufficient supplies for a prolonged campaign and recruited soldiers by promising them English lands. Importantly, William secured papal support for his claim to the throne. William's invasion force numbered approximately 7,000 men. The force was well-balanced, with infantry forming the core, supported by archers and, crucially, a strong cavalry contingent. His army included not just Normans, but also soldiers from Brittany and Flanders. After waiting for favorable winds, William's fleet of approximately 700 ships departed from St. Valery-sur-Somme on September 27th. They successfully crossed the English Channel and landed at Pevensey Bay on September 28th, 1066. Upon landing, William immediately established a defensive position. He built a wooden castle at Pevensey, cleverly utilizing the walls of an abandoned Roman fort. He either burned or repurposed his ships, preventing retreat and demonstrating his commitment to conquest. This secure base allowed his forces to recover from the crossing and prepare for the campaign ahead. A crucial advantage of William's army was its superior cavalry tactics. His mounted knights used stirrups for stability, allowing powerful lance charges. They employed sophisticated charge and retreat maneuvers that the English forces were unfamiliar with. This mobility gave the Normans a significant battlefield advantage. With his well-equipped invasion force of 7,000 men, including infantry, archers, and superior cavalry, William established a strong foothold at Pevensey Bay that would ultimately lead to his victory at Hastings. After the Battle of Stamford Bridge on September 25, 1066, where King Harold Godwinson defeated Norwegian invaders, he received devastating news. William of Normandy had landed at Pevensey in southern England with a formidable invasion force. Harold had no choice but to immediately march his army south, covering nearly 250 miles from Yorkshire to confront the Norman threat. This remarkable journey began immediately after the Battle of Stamford Bridge. Harold first learned of William's landing around October 1st while in York. Moving at an extraordinary pace for medieval armies, Harold reached London by October 11th. He paused briefly to gather reinforcements. By October 13th, Harold had positioned his forces on Senlac Hill, near what is now Battle Abbey, about 7 miles inland from Hastings. Harold's troops were exhausted after their long march and previous battle. Nevertheless, they formed a formidable shield wall along the ridge of Senlac Hill. Harold's army consisted of approximately 7,000 men. The core of his force was his housecarls, elite professional soldiers who formed the center of the shield wall. Unlike William's balanced force, Harold's army had very few archers, which would prove significant in the battle. And critically, the Anglo-Saxon force had almost no cavalry, in stark contrast to the Norman knights that formed a key component of William's army. Despite their exhaustion from the forced march, the Anglo-Saxon forces took a strong defensive position on higher ground, forming their shield wall to await William's attack. The battlefield terrain at Senlac Hill played a crucial role in shaping the Battle of Hastings. Harold Godwinson positioned his Saxon forces on the high ground of Senlac Hill, giving them a significant defensive advantage. The Saxons formed a shield wall, a dense formation of infantry with overlapping shields, which was highly effective against cavalry charges. The elevation advantage was significant. Harold's forces had protected flanks, and William's Normans would have to charge uphill, tiring them before contact. William arranged his army in 3 divisions. In the center were his Norman troops, with Bretons on the left flank and French allies on the right. His archers were positioned at the front to soften Saxon defenses, while cavalry waited behind the infantry to exploit any gaps in the shield wall. William planned a 3-pronged attack up the hill against Harold's position. The archers would fire first, followed by infantry assaults, with cavalry ready to exploit any weaknesses. The Battle of Hastings took place on October 14th, 1066, near present-day Battle in East Sussex, England.
The Battle of Hastings began around 9 in the morning on October 14th, 1066. The Anglo-Saxons held the high ground, forming a dense shield wall along the ridge. Below them, William arranged his Norman forces in 3 groups: archers at the front, infantry in the middle, and cavalry at the rear. William opened the battle with his archers, who fired volleys of arrows uphill toward the English lines. The arrows had limited effect against the Anglo-Saxon shield wall. The uphill angle and the English shields protected most of Harold's men. With the archers proving ineffective, William sent in his infantry. Norman foot soldiers charged up the hill, attempting to break through the shield wall. The English held firm, using axes and spears to beat back the Norman infantry. The attack failed to break through the shield wall. William then ordered his cavalry to charge. Norman knights on horseback stormed up the hill, attempting to break through with the force of their charge. Despite their momentum, the cavalry also failed to break the English lines. The Anglo-Saxons stood their ground, and the horses couldn't penetrate the shield wall. As the cavalry retreated, a crisis developed on the Norman left flank. The Breton contingent began to flee, believing the battle was lost. Panic spread through the Norman ranks, as rumors circulated that Duke William had been killed. The entire Norman army was at risk of collapsing. The opening phase of the battle had gone poorly for the Normans. All 3 attack phases had failed, and confusion threatened their army. The Anglo-Saxon shield wall was holding firm, but the battle was far from over.
William's victory at Hastings was only the beginning of a systematic conquest of England. Rather than rushing in, William moved cautiously toward London. By December 1066, English nobles surrendered at Berkhamsted, and William was crowned King of England on Christmas Day. To secure his conquest, William launched an unprecedented castle-building campaign. Initially using quick wooden Motte and Bailey designs, these were later replaced with stone fortifications. Over 700 castles were ultimately built to maintain Norman control. By 1070, William had implemented a strict feudal system. Land was divided among his Norman followers, replacing the Anglo-Saxon nobility. This created a power structure with Normans at every level except the bottom, where Anglo-Saxon peasants were bound to the land and their Norman lords. William faced rebellion in northern England in 1069. His response was brutal, what became known as the Harrying of the North. His armies destroyed villages, burned crops, and killed livestock, An estimated 100,000 people died from starvation, and some areas remained devastated for generations. By 1086, William commissioned the Domesday Book, a comprehensive survey of all his lands. This detailed record of ownership and resources ensured efficient taxation and completed his system of control over England.